communication that happens here, the Whitney biennial poster, which is a media in order to advertise an institution, a very well-known institution in art, is going to be made not by this institution, but by those people who are being dismissed by that institution, or who don't have any connection, or they are not able to participate in any sense in that event or by that institution. They are going to talk about that institution now in this poster. So this is a form of culture jamming or determinant that we were talking about. Although they never use any of these posters for their official poster that year. Gelatin, they are very interesting group of artists, four different artists who creates very interesting works. As you can see here, they in one of their pieces in Los Angeles, they rented a building with 3 levels, and they blocked all of the corridors, staircases, and all of the means of connection between these 3 levels. They emptied up the shaft, elevator shaft, by removing everything out of the shaft, and they stood inside that shaft, all 4 of them, and when audience would come to the building, so the main event was happening on the rooftop, and the main entrance was at the first floor. So at the rooftop, it was kind of like a communal ceremony. It was just like people gathering, having drinks and food and talk to each other. That was the thing that happened at the rooftop. So they were actually standing inside the shaft and sending people up, the audience up to the rooftop by their hand. So the audience are in direct contact, physical contact with the artist. So artist is mainly a tool, a facilitator, that sends the audience to the final goal, or final product, which would be that communal interaction that happens on the rooftop. In another piece that is called Tantam Mounter, 24/7, they confine themselves, these 4 artists with the help of 2 other participants, they confine themselves inside this large box. That large box was inside the gallery. They created this wooden box. And they confined themselves here with enough supplies for surviving for 1 week. So they remained in that wooden box for 1 week without coming out, with all of these kind of like things that you see here inside in order to survive throughout that week. There was one small entrance, or actually door on top of the box, which audience could put or drop objects inside this wooden box for these artists. And when audience could drop any objects that they want, and these artists were trying to replicate or create a replica of that object with the material that they have inside the box. So it was a form of communication through object, communication between artists and audience through the materiality or objectivity of the medium or the piece. So it's kind of similar to the idea of neglecting the code in that communication form, in that communication diagram. The form, which is supposed to be in sculpt, so the main work is supposed to be in a sculptural piece being made by these people, right, inside the box. That sculptural piece, which would have a form, is mainly a replica or appropriation somehow of an original object, and is being made of everyday objects, material, mundane objects that you would see around yourself. So all of those aspects that we talked about in this class so far, transformation of everyday objects, the presence of the audience and participation of the audience, the activation of the body, the activation of time, which is actually the title of this piece, all of them are present here in this piece. They're gathered together in this piece. And when they were creating those replicas, they would send them back out to the person, or the audience would actually send them in. There are some examples. So this is not, again, about this replica. This work is not about this. This work is about the communication that happens between the audience and artist through these two objects. And it's ironic that I read in some articles that many of these pieces were being sold in online places like Craigslist and eBay with a very high price by these people, by the audience participated, because they own not the piece. A picture of Anija, another favorite, another artist that Nicola Buio likes a lot and talks about him a lot in his writings. He is a multicultural, multinational artist. He was born in Argentina, lived in, or raised by Taiwanese parents, and lived in Taiwan for a long time, and then moved to France and lived there for many years, and then moved to New York, and he's residing in New York right now. So he never talks about his nationality. He considers himself as a nomad, which is another aspect of relational aesthetic and the things that Nicolas Bourdieu talked about. The artist should be nomad, and the idea of nomadism as the accepted form of contemporary art. So in this famous piece made by him in different iteration or different formats, in different galleries and throughout, as you can see, from 1990 to 2002, he was doing this piece a few times every year. He was being invited by the gallery or different galleries and museums in order to perform this piece, and in this piece he was just bringing in the things that he had in his own kitchen and cooking Thai food for the audience. So the audience could participate in the cooking, and then there was a table set up in the gallery, and they would sit behind the table and talk to each other and eat food. That was the art piece. Again, that communal interaction, or interaction, direct interaction, personal interaction between people. Artist facilitates that as the main idea behind the piece. Julio Tzita, the Brazilian artist, he used to be actually a painter. When he started his professional practice as an artist, he was an abstract painter. He was creating abstract painting similar to, for example, Barnett Newman's square painting, or some of the abstract expressionist painting. But one time he mentioned that he mentioned that these paintings are not satisfying me somehow in a way that I desire or I want, that I'm looking for. So he decided to represent all of his previous paintings through another form by actually making the audience wear those paintings. So he was designing these clothes, the same color, exactly with the same color. He was dyeing these fabrics with exactly the same color that he used for those paintings, and asking the audience in the gallery to wear them. And then he was actually organizing a community that's like dancing, for example, public dancing, or dancing in the gallery or in the public spaces, or having a discussion why they were wearing these paintings as a cloth. There is a documentary about this, which would be interesting to look at.
Luis Sico was a Brazilian artist that began with painting in the 50s. And then he took the color from the painting, from the walls of the gallery and museum, to the space, to the parangolés. Parangolé is a word that you can wear, most known by the capes, because the capes the people wear to dance, to perform, and is a work that works very much with the body. What you're going to see here is the way he brought this color from the objects to the people's lives. In 1954, Igor went to Mangueira, which is a shanty town in Rio, and he started that samba with the dancers, which are only black people at that time. And then he brought the experience to his work. And with the Parangolais, invited these dancers to wear the capes and dance with them in a big museum, an exhibition, but they were not allowed and stay outside dancing with the drummers and all the people from Mangueira. And why was quite shocked at that time. Here in London, you have the School of Samba, London School of Samba. You have dancers from here, which I think is very nice, it's incredible. And normal people that wanting to join to the parade, to this event, they will be invited to participate. When people perform Parangolé, they are living the color. I think the most significant lesson of the Parangolé is, the spirit of liberty. Because when you start to play, you become kind of child. So you begin to discover a liberty of your soul through this work, which is incredible.
Shuichi Ozawa is the Japanese artist who was mentioned in multiple times again in Nicola Boglio's book, Relational Aesthetic. He is also part of nomadism movement in art. Almost all of his work, they are happening throughout the time. He doesn't have any timeline for his projects. So his projects are open-ended. He keeps adding to each of his projects, and he's constantly traveling around the world. So each different piece of his work would shape up or create in one different culture and one different country, but the totality of those works that are still open-ended, as I mentioned, and being added to them, would be one series or one work with one specific concept. This series is called Vegetable Weapons, which, as you can see, if you pay attention to the date of creation, you will see that it is changing and evolving every year, different years. He travels to different countries and keep doing this, and at the same time, these other projects at the same time. So he conducts multiple different projects at the same time throughout the years. In this specific piece, when he travels to a specific country or city with different culture, he tries to find a local family and ask them about their cultural food, the most important cultural food, and then together they would go to the local market and buy the ingredients for that cultural food, and then come back home and with the family they cook, they create this weapon out of those ingredients. Then the person who is cooking that food in that family would pose with that weapon, and then he would capture an image, like the photograph, and then they would dismantle this weapon made of these ingredients as a gesture, and then they cook that food out of these dismantled ingredients or dismantled weapon, and then they sit together with the family and eat that food. So that's this whole story, this whole scenario is being true for any of these frames that you're going to see. So this process would happen in any of these frames. And you would see the name of the dish, the cultural dish here. So, I put this slide here again to emphasize the importance of this. In all of those works that you saw so far, these three important elements were present. You just need to think about them the way that I described them and track them down. Almost all of them, this aspect was present in some of them, most of them, of the authorship and also activation of something, activation of the space, activation of the concept or idea, activation of the body are present in all of those works. This is the main structure of relational aesthetic as a theory, which is believed by many thinkers and many academic-related individuals as the most complicated, hardest theory to understand about art, which, as you can see, if you could break it down in a meaningful way like how we discussed it today, it is not that complicated. It's the thing, it's a quality or phenomenon that we deal with in our everyday life, and we are using each of these elements in our everyday life, in our interaction, daily interaction with our friends, with our family, with our instructors, with our employers. So it's important to understand this complicated theory of relational aesthetic through this terminology that we are talking about, so that when you see a contemporary work of art, you could think about it from the perspective of relational aesthetic and make it meaningful for yourself. There is a very interesting short documentary about the idea of relational aesthetic by Ben Lewis. Ben Lewis is the artist, the British artist who made this documentary, which has many seasons. Each season he talks about one movement or trend in contemporary art, broadcast by the BBC. This episode is about relational art, and he talks with different artists about relational art. I'm going to show you part of this documentation. There is a link attached to this. The link that is attached to this sometimes acts like weirdly. Sometimes when there are many people who are watching this video at the same time, the video stops. So if it didn't work for you, don't surprise. Just wait a few days and then refer back to the link. But I also have this documentary on my laptop. If you're so interested in this discussion, you can bring the USB. I can copy it for you. Actually, let's play it through.
I had a goal which I wasn't prepared to abandon, to find out if relational art was a brand new ism. I went to meet the godfather, the author of the book.
A few minutes from the beginning, and then the part that he talks with Romeo himself.
This is a dangerous work of art. The BBC will only permit me to show it to you in slow motion. It consists of hundreds of flashing light bulbs, all pulsating at the speed of a human heart. They create dazzling patterns everywhere, even on the inside of the retina.
I think this is like looking at a Monet painting or something like this. Because you close your eyes, and then you see all these like colors in front of you, and it's becoming very impressionistic in a very straightforward way. And the only thing is that you don't see it in the traditional way by looking at it, but you see it by closing your eyes. So it's maybe one of the very few works of art that can best be seen with closed eyes.
Holler belongs to a group of artists who are making a new kind of art. Some theorists call it relational. I think it could be a brand new ism.
The show is called Art Safari.
French curator and art critic Nicolas Bourriaud. It's called Relational Aesthetics. It describes a new movement in art which I have never heard of. It says that it emerged in Europe and America in the 90s, while I was distracted by the YBAs. Bourriaud's book contains a long list of artists whom he views as relational. Among them, Vanessa Beecroft presents arrangements of scantily clad women in art galleries. Philippe Perrino bought the rights to a Japanese cartoon character. Then he and his artist friends made works of art with her, thus liberating a throwaway image from mass cultural narratives. Felix González Torres created minimalist sculptures out of boiled sweets. And Ritwik Tirvanija exhibited his own flat in an art gallery. Visitors came and cooked in his kitchen. Over the last 10 years, Borio had curated several exhibitions of relational art all over the world, but his book was not on first reading easy to understand.
Artwork and social interactivity. The possibility of a relational art, an art taking as its theoretical horizon the realm of human interaction and its social context, rather than the assertion of an independent and private symbolic space, points to a radical upheaval of the aesthetic, cultural, and political goals introduced by modern art.
The 20th century had been full of isms. Impressionism, Fauvism, Cubism, Expressionism, Constructivism, Suprematism, Surrealism, Abstract Expressionism, Minimalism, and Conceptualism, to name but a handful. But in recent times, there had been a disappointing lack of isms. I thought Nicolas Bourriaud's relational aesthetics could be the first ism of the 21st century, and I set out to test this hypothesis. My search for the new ism began with two Danish artists who had frequently appeared in Bourriaud's exhibitions. Their new piece consisted of a minimalist series of payphones.
What would you say to
In one room there are some folks that audience
you need
call their
like
relatives. In other
the
rooms there
visitor
are
to
other
come
audience
in and play in order to give the work some meaning? But when you go to a show where real minimalist works, like you would also like them to be activated a bit, like that you could like climb some of the sculptures, so you know, like sit on it, and it would look so much more groovy and up to date.
Elmgreen and Dragset's work seemed to me to be a step forward in art. Its sleek looks came from minimalism. The use of everyday objects was conceptual. The new element was ordinary people. In this piece, they hired household decorators to paint the walls of a gallery white over and over again for a day. And for another exhibition, the artist simply drilled a hole into the ceiling of the gallery. Visitors could climb a ladder and look into the flat on the floor above.
You very often make very artificial attempts to like kind of link like the art scene to its like social context or surroundings. And here we did it in a very, very basic way, you know, like the two worlds would meet through this hole.
Much to my surprise, this was a very difficult film to make. I approached many of the artists mentioned in Bourriaud's book, but some of them were not keen to appear in a program about relational aesthetics. Liam Gillett makes simple architectural structures with texts, such as this one. He's mentioned many times in Bourriaud's book. His work may be considered relational because they investigate the way architecture controls social activity. When I contacted Liam Gillett, he told me I was asking the wrong questions and put the phone down on me. I later found out he told another artist appearing in my program that I was dangerous. Angela Bullock told me not to ask the question why, and then missed our interview appointment. Other artists agreed to meet me, but when they did, they seemed to find my approach rather outdated. What ideas are represented?
So it is important to know why these artists are hesitant to answer this question whether relational aspect is newism or not. We discussed that.